Hey all, welcome back to SSX on tour. I'm Anesthetic, with me on this is the same crew as before, Blade Tester.
Hey kids, how's it going?
Turo.
Howdy.
And Zindictive.
Hey lads.
So we're on the tour, and now we have some competition events. Those are these stars that you see. Those could be racing or freestyle, along with the shreds as you see, and yeah, we'll jump into one of those and get a taste for them.
I like the box like with the poster there.
Yeah. Now, if you played the previous games and you're used to like, oh, a race will be, I will do this one course 3 times, or a show off will be like, I will do this once, or such. It's not going to be that. There's a bunch of different types of like races or show offs, even though they're all very similar to each other. You might get one where you get 2 qualifying heats to, be able to go to the final, or you'll get one that's just like 2 races, take your best time, or you'll get one that's like race this 4 times and the lowest total time. Like, they're all super similar, and that also means that you're not. Most of the time, you're not just racing one track, because the tracks in this game are shorter than before.
Shorter but tightly designed,
Yeah, so you probably will be racing like 2 tracks combined, or even 3 tracks combined, and doing that each heat. I'm just saying that since, certainly when I would just watch this game and not play it, I would get kind of confused as a bystander of like, wait, where did one track end? Where did another begin? Sort of thing.
Yeah, that's, I actually wanted to ask you if, when you say, like, sometimes it'll be, like, race this 4 times and the lowest time, or whatever, whatever the thing is it, like, they'll do that for, like, shorter tracks, and then, like, for longer ones, it'll be, like, race it twice? Not longer tracks, but longer races, I guess I should say.
Yeah, that's a rarer event type, so I'm, once again, I don't have a, decades of experience in this game, but I think thinking on, like what I did record, that when it is like you have 1 track and you will race it 4 times, it will be a shorter track then.
Yeah, like 3 minutes or so.
That's the thing that that is a restriction. If you've got you have to race. If race means 3 attempts and you take your best score or your total score or whatever, and that's all it ever means, that means long tracks will take forever and short tracks will be really quick, And so I think that's probably a good balance actually, because then it's you can get the same time amount of gameplay out of each event.
There is a correlation between, on an event where you only have 1 shot at a track, except you could restart as many times as you want, but you only have to do it once. That will be when you maybe go down 4 courses in a row.
I see. Yeah.
Also, I just noticed that we're in a different map now all of a sudden.
Yeah, when the music changes, that means you've probably changed.
Transition? Okay.
Yeah,
the transitions are very smooth.
That was very
smooth.
Yeah, I mean, this, the mountain kind of, the design, the idea of the thing was to make the whole mountain extremely consistent for one full ride down, and again, not have, it go from midday to midnight when you go through, 1 loading tunnel. And
that's really cool. I mean, honestly, there's
you guys take over.
There's the way that extreme sports games and other games too try to gel areas together. It's really interesting that in the extreme sports game genre, you can see exactly how the process of developing a good way to connect levels together. What was the Tony Hawk, or I think it was a Tony Hawk game where there were different areas and they would be connected by these long loading hallways.
Yeah.
And that's a kind of clunky way to do this. This is a much nicer way to do it, because instead of a loading hallway, it's basically a loading hallway, but the loading zone itself is actually much nicer and more interesting to race through, so you don't feel so jarringly oh, I'm in a loading hallway,
Yeah.
I will say, though, that due to basically all the competitions being multiple tracks, that ends up being where, the tracks in the middle of the mountain, you will see a lot more often than the tracks at, the very top of the very bottom. I mean, if you've ever seen, a binomial distribution curve, it's literally like that. Oh, son of a birch, here it's, the first track in my in a 2-track race, whereas it could be the second or third in a different event that starts 1 or 2 tracks up.
So so it's just more likely to show up.
So
by virtue
like
of the fact
across
that-
the playthrough, like you will see these tracks in the middle of the mountain so much more than some of the ones you might want to see, because like you can't really control what events generate. If you pick an event, 1 or 2 more will spawn, and there will always be enough events for you to do, but like it's not up to you, like I will now do the event at this track and check it off of my game progression.
Yeah.
So when you said generate, does it actually generate tracks, or is it like?
I was gonna ask the same thing.
There's like what they're not procedural. It's been like there is a pool of possible events, and
they'll randomly pick a couple for you. Okay, I kind of like that actually.
Yeah,
I
it
never
makes-
actually noticed that.
I
Yeah, 'cause-
personally, I don't really like how this game is structured. Of just like go from rank 200 to rank 1 and just see what events you generate for
along
you
the
and
way.
do those.
Yeah.
Because it's like, what am I looking forward to in the next hour of gameplay? Like in previous games, it could be I want to beat this track to go see the next track that I have not seen before. I want to go up to the next peak. Whereas here, it's kind of like I've already raced these. It's a very similar event to one I've already done. It's da-da-da.
I see. Yeah, I mean that's like it's interesting because like I feel like the whole games industry has during this time, the mid 2000s, the whole games industry, doesn't matter what genre you were in, they were all trying different things to try to like make gameplay shorter and tighter, and then sell you on smaller bits of gameplay over and over. I mean, it was both like not always a monetization thing. Sometimes it was also just like a game design thing. But like it was like right around the time where episodic content seemed to be the way that games were going, and like that's not what took off. People hated. Well, I don't know if people hated the episodic thing, but like episodes are not really a thing nearly as much.
So I mean,
what up?
Telltale Games, they did the episodic thing. They
Oh,
popularized
yeah.
it.
Yeah, I feel like they're the only ones who, I was gonna say, really won at that episodic thing, but then they crashed and burned, so I don't know if they won. But
Yeah,
I don't know. I mean, like it's not quite episodic, but this is like a precursor to what could have been sort of episodic, and then like at the same time, they kind of veered away from it again because like it, whatever they took the things that worked from it, they took the things that didn't work, and tried to figure out. It's experimentation.
Yeah.
Every time you're making a game, if you're making a new game in a series, you want to change things up. You want to try some new things. And,
I mean, this was still the era of like experimenting and such, so that's not.
I mean, I think
really.
every era is the era of experimenting.
right. But and it's sort of like just as I now in kind of like late 20s truly not experienced but understood kind of the whole package that like SSX 3 was. Then you go to the next game, SSX on Tour, and it's so much more just literally centrally around the gameplay, but has less of that package element. There's no announcer, there's no DJ in between. There's they like
really
the
focused
pro
down on
characters that return have like barely any voice lines. You barely interact with them. Your character doesn't really interact with anything, do anything with them. It's again like gameplay, and not really much around it. Which,
and I mean, the gameplay is still really solid though, because it is an SSX game, and the SSX games are just it's just a really good series.
Yeah, though
Grenade.
I will say, like, with what they did to Monster Tricks, where now it slows down time and goes to the other camera angle, you'll see this crop up in this heat a bunch, or this slopestyle event a bunch. It's cool the first time.
Yeah.
It's cool the 10th time. Is it cool the 1000th time?
Yeah, I see what you mean. Slow-mo on that, okay, I always mix up my terms here. What is slopestyle?
Tricking.
Slopestyle is where...
Tricking. I need to get trick points.
Okay. And so it's showing you bottom left corner, you're split between you and the person ahead of you. Okay.
In first place, yeah.
Oh, is that with you in first place? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just starting off the game, so
I guess,
still
it doesn't make
Toyota.
sense to do the split between you and the person right ahead of you.
I will say, because I only played the demo, and I never really played
Holy
onto it
shit.
beforehand, holy shit, that's a jump.
Yeah, this game has a few set pieces like that are just really fucking cool.
I also do.
That was so cool.
I know you were going to do something, Zane. I do want to mention, when I would watch gameplay of this, I would always feel kind of terrified when people would do this, because, like, you see the camera angle shift, and you're like, where's the ground? I can't see the ground, da-da-da. That's not as much of a problem as you'd think it would be when you're the one playing, but I do kind of wish I could see the ground. Like, you will see me end some tricks conservatively early, but overall, you do end up with enough of a mental picture in your head to be able to end things correctly.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're just watching, obviously you're in zero control. So it
And also,
always
like,
looks like
the game is pretty generous with its landing frames.
I just wanted to point that out.
Yeah, I was going to mention, and I think that's just a pump demos really, but I was going to mention how getting thrown into levels and such, I would have no idea how to really control my guy, so doing tricks and flips and such, I would just be like fucking deer in headlights of that shit at that point. Yeah, just the fact it also throws you in at the start and doesn't really, like, explain
that was
itself
so cool.
too well. I feel like a lot of players their first time would also feel like deers in headlights with knowing how to really get points here and such.
Well, that was a really cool set piece. I liked that.
Yeah, White Knuckles is a good level.
That's
Yeah.
a great.
It's kind of like this, like, bobsled and equipment kind of graveyard, with the ski jump at the end. White Knuckles is a level I could put the name to. There are some levels in this thing where, like, if I think of the name, I can only really remember, like, one small part of the level or such, because, I mean, as you've seen, they're all, I don't want to say fairly similar to each other, but all do have this, sort of snowy aesthetic.
Sure.
But there's some where it's just like, oh god, what was on the rocks? What was between the sheets?
So I wonder, do you have an easier time remembering, like, early tracks, middle of the mountain tracks, or like lower down tracks?
If the track is very continue with.
Well, I mean the name specifically. Like, do you have an easier time remembering the names of tracks that are in the middle of the mountain or the top or the bottom? Because I would imagine top ones would be easier to remember because you start on those.
Yeah, I think top and bottom, and then it's like that middle track list where sometimes the camera does still screw you.
Jesus.
God, that was the corpse roll of the century.
Yeah, like, because, like, the bottom of the mountain is a lot more structures, buildings, like you're riding into, the ski resort town, and you're not just, going down the mountain. And the very top of the mountain has some really cool set pieces, like the hot dam has the whole damn thing. It's, kind of when you're in the middle of the mountain where a lot of the courses are, and it's like, what was higher learning? What was Wild Tree Fun?
What was
try and get more
compilation?
into it. No, the compilation I'll remember, because compilation is so different from the others, in a tricky style way. I don't know. It's.
Yeah, I think that's the privacy effect too. Like when you're looking at the beginning of a list, the end of it. Like if somebody lists off a bunch of stuff to you, and then asks you to recall them, you're more likely to remember things at the beginning and the end of the list than you are to remember things in the middle. Especially if you have to keep track of the order of those things. And that's just the way human memory works.
Right? Yeah.
Oh shit.
But I think looking back on, like, SSX 3 and how every part of the mountain had a way different coloring effects, time of day and such, I think, something like that, like, now you can reflect on that and go, wow, that went a long way towards making every part of that mountain unique. I will not forget
that for
what
granted.
Ruthless Ridge looked like. I will not forget what Intimidator looks like.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. There's a section of the game called Ruthless and another section called Ruthless Ridge. And even though I didn't play them, I still remember them both distinctly.
Yeah. I mean, personally, as a person, I remember, like, settings a lot by their lighting. Like, if I'm, like, recalling a memory from, like, my childhood, one of the first things I will remember is what time of day it was and what the lighting in the room was at the time.
Yeah, like,
So,
the orange level was this, blah, blah, blah,
What's
Like,
up, boys?
I
Simon.
remember talking to my friend one time when I was like 7, and I remember the specific lamp in my room was on, and that was the only light in my room that was on, and this is what the room, like, looked like because of that.
Guys,
Simon.
look what they did to my boy.
Yeah,
Look
what?
how they massacred my boy.
He looks so different.
into a
So the
goofball.
pro characters that return, one, have almost no lines. Because you don't play as them. But two, are just like
Shells.
different in bad ways, basically,
think-
every time.
Simon looks like he's really trying to capture that like punk rock aesthetic, and like it kind of goes with the like alternative rock aesthetic that the game is going for in its menus.
Yeah, but the way they introduced Simon, instead of him being like this psychotic, crazy motherfucker, they kind of introduced him like an idiot.
Yeah, maybe a little bit. I mean, crashing. I don't know.
I mean, that's
just
a-
out of
yeah,
control.
That is a
Yeah.
Simon thing, but it's like one of the loading tips or one of the loading screens is like, what was it? Fuck, now that I've stopped you all to do it, it's like Simon, turned his aggro into becoming an icon. So it's like, what? He was crazy. He was
Yeah,
cool.
he was just
had
crazy.
so
Yeah,
much
he was not
personality.
strategic about his
Like-
aggro. Yeah.
Now,
was just-
again, since all the returning characters basically only have like 4 or 5 lines, like one, when you start, their challenge event, maybe 1 or 2 if you bump into them, and then 1 when you beat them, maybe 1 if you lose them. But like, that's it, that's all they have.
Yeah.
It's like, they literally just grabbed Joe fucking janitor off the street to voice every one of them.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Made
Yeah.
a lot of them very similar to each
Oh
other.
wow, that's a cool way for that to end.
Yeah.
Love that.
I do want to say that not particularly a good or bad thing, but that was the peak event. Not the peak event, but that was like the highest run on the course, and we're getting that like 30
okay.
minutes into the game.
Okay, that's
Like
cool.
nothing is really off limits
Yeah.
at the
Oh,
start.
two more.
Yeah,
Two
now that I
more.
remember that that's on the rocks and not between the sheets, yeah, like, further up the mountain, yeah, there's more of, like, the kind of danger element. But yeah, you'll see more of that eventually.
I wanted to say something that I've just been thinking since the first video. Are you playing this on emulator or are you playing this on hardware?
Yes, I'm playing on emulator.
Because like a lot of times emulators cause like visual glitches and things like that. The fog in this game looks really good. Like
Yeah,
I
it
love
just-
the way that snow
yeah.
fog looks.
Looks that way
Yeah,
on
the fog is actually pretty good.
looks that way on hardware and on emulator. It's just really good looking.
Like this distance fog is like whatever, but like when you get to an area where the snow has been kicked up into the air and it's just hanging in the air like that, man, I'll point it out next time I see it. Because I think it just looks great. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
sure the people have seen it too.
On that, it's just a quick little thing. You might see like a white line or kind of a colored line going across the track in front of me. That is an emulator thing, and I can't get rid of that.
Yeah.
This game
Yeah.
doesn't run perfectly.
It's actually an SSX 3 as well. It's just a lot harder to notice.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Actually, let me deep dive into some things really quickly. I could get rid of it in SSX 3, and I did. I can't get rid of it here, because if I get rid of it by setting the skip draw range, then when I do the full monster tricks and the camera does even more kind of cool things, then that breaks.
Oh.
So we have to live with the line, so that monster
Okay,
tricks
yeah.
look all right. But it's
That's
just
all
a
right,
small thing. I mean,
be
just
fair-
otherwise, since this is like 2005, I couldn't run this with like as upscaled everything, and get decent performances before. But again, like, it works fine.
Yeah,
To
it
be
looks
fair, like looking at those lines that do appear, it looks like that's where the fog distance comes in. I kind of
Yeah.
like how much of a distance you have to go before you really
Yeah, it's quite a
see
bit,
the
yeah.
fog come in. And I found
And,
it
like-
kind of cool.
And like, let's be real, there were games releasing on PS2 in 2005 that had like shit like that line, and like just in the released on original hardware shit. So like,
Right.
it's not a big deal.
Yeah.
Right.
yeah.
You know? Oh man, I do like this is like a nighttime course, or like I guess. It's
Oh hell yeah!
Red
Jump the
Zone.
red zone.
Was Red Zone a real thing?
Yeah. Old Spice Red Zone.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I forgot that.
Yeah.
It says in really small text "Old Spice," and you can't really see it because it's a texture in a PS2 game.
Yeah. So like, instead of there being, like times a day baked in for courses, a course can basically be at day, at night, or in a snowstorm.
Oh wow, yeah, that's
and that
cool.
has been set up for like every course. So you might pick
That's
a shred on a course, and it'll be at night.
That is really cool, but also it does contribute to like none of the courses have its own like distinct
It's
lighting.
aesthetic, yeah. that's-
Yeah.
Again, like some I can easily remember. Like this one, compilation, is so show off based, so tricky and heavy based with stuff,
yeah.
like a full half pipe. that
Yeah.
I can remember all of these moments, from the
Oh, this is so classic, yeah.
This is so good.
Nice.
I like these. I like the camera icon, just like, I don't know, like swiveling around trying to find a spot, kind of thing. I like the look of that.
I also like the name that it gave you there, Half Pipe Pipe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Damn.
God, there's some big ass jumps.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Kick.
I will say, like, when it does the whole slow-mo thing, and you also can't really see the ground, but when it does that, it does make everything look more dramatic and, like, huge. At the same time, it's kind of hard to time yourself.
Yeah.
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 I mean, that was a weird camera angle that just gave you.
Yeah. At some points, it's like pointing the camera back up the mountain. It's like,
Oh, yeah, that's helpful. Thank you.
Yeah.
But I mean, usually it's. I don't know. I think it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like
Is there a way to
cinematic cameras.
disable it? That'd be nice.
No,
like in
I
a
don't think
pause
so.
menu.
Nope, it is baked into the game.
All right.
Yeah.
We finally got infinite boost. So
Yeah, wow,
getting
holy
infinite
shit.
boost is a lot harder in this game. But when you get infinite boost, well, you have it infinitely until you crash. They've kind of changed up how it is. So yeah, like you can boost infinitely when you have this red glowing thing, but if you crash, you will lose that. It will go down a bit. But the game really doesn't penalize you much for having to like select warp, or if you crash and have to build up some of it again.
Alright.
Which is nice because again, it is quite a bit harder to get, especially here at the start. Like, yeah, see, it's just gonna go down a bit. But yeah, it's quite a bit harder to get, especially here at the start. Like, sure, when you had no stats in the other games, you felt slower, etc., etc. But like again, I could always make something out of that. I could still do cool stuff. But here, like, even I am like, oh my god, I need to try so hard. I need to do so many big jumps, so many big tricks to actually get up to this infinite boost.
I guess I looked at all the people, like, really get into that super boost and such real quickly and such in the previous games. They were just like, we've made this shit too easy. Let's make
Well-
it hard as fuck.
Because you will also notice things like, wow, my character is falling down a lot more than I'd think. I'm, bumping off rails. I'm,
Bumping off
crashing into
trees.
things and falling a lot more than I'd think. And that is because you might have seen those, like, attributes you can buy, which are basically like, I don't know, bonus power increases, like, stay on your feet a lot better.
Yeah.
Or,
like stability
get-
when you crash.
Yeah, like go off the starting gate a lot faster. And the most expensive of those is get more boost when you do things. So it's literally like your character is gimped in terms of like staying on their feet, hitting grind rails that you maybe get an awkward angle on, etc. Because you're intended to buy those basically, feats, those powers to get better at them.
So do you feel like you're playing like a I don't know, when you bought all those power-ups, does it feel more like the older experience where it's like you've worked your way up to being one of the pros from the previous games, or does it still feel different?
Oh yeah, it definitely feels better. And I mean,
Okay.
I'm also at like no stats in everything here.
Yeah,
In fact,
sure.
I think I'm gonna rank up here, and I'm gonna go buy a board now, which will help. If you are like, oh my god, I'm so slow at tricking, and since I'm not great at these games, I can't manage with that. You could buy a board before this. I was just waiting until I got to a good kind of point where I had the money to get one that worked. It is just kind of frustrating with buying those like attributes as well. That's like another thing you need money for. You get money kind of slowly at the start of this game, so it's like.
Wait,
And also,
stay on
again,
the snow?
you don't have any of your full monster tricks. You have to purchase those as well. Like, even back in SSX 3, you still had a full set of Ubers from the get-go.
Yeah.
I got up to the next ranking, so you could do free ride if you want, and then, so here you can see, like, all the courses. They kind of line up. Let me go over to the... I swear I do. Yeah, let me go over to the gear shop and we can kind of look at the different boards. I think we already looked at some of them, but like combo boards are a scam. They're awful. Why would you ever do these? Because you think like, oh, the racing boards would have no tricks, right? No, the racing boards have a lot in the trick stat because you need to like do tricks to get boost. So like aside from the best combo board in the game, which is like a secret Easter egg, there's no reason to buy one of them. Just buy a racing board because it'll have better stats. And don't buy a freestyle board unless you want like maximum tricking as early as possible.
Yeah.
Huh.
I don't know, maybe there's some data miner expert out there who can tell me I'm wrong, but that's certainly how it seemed to be from a first glance. That just like, combo boards are not worth it because race boards are already like balanced in everything and will give you better stats for the money.
Yeah.
What the
Interesting.
fuck? Okay,
Weird.
So we moved on to the next rookie. See, again, it's like amateur, rookie, newbie. I did fucking...
Yeah.
We moved on to the next thing. We're going to continue on the tour next time.